Hey everybody, Josh Sheridan here with the Barely Legal Podcast.
They demand my alter ego, but I won't go.
Today on my show is a good friend of mine and another nominee for the local race in Hillsborough County for the Circuit Court bench. Which group are you running for?
Group 30.
Group 30. Okay, I think we've had 13, 31, and 30 so far. Welcome to the show, Danny Alvarez. Danny, how you doing?
I am excited. Thank you for having me, Josh. I could not be more pumped.
I've been looking forward to this one for a while because, and I'm going to talk about in a moment my recollection of the first time I ever met you. But I've been telling everybody I can just turn on the mics and leave for an hour.
Okay.
And you could just go. You're just out water.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do it.
So how's it going? This is your big campaign, your first time in, and how's that going?
It's weird when it's your name that's actually on the marquee, and so when that happens, everything changes. Everyone's coming to you. Everyone's excited. The energy is ridiculous, but the pressure is ridiculous too. Everyone keeps saying, "Hey, how's it going?" You're like, remember in law school when you only had one exam?
One thing to do, yeah.
You don't know, like, did I study enough? Am I studying? Am I doing the right thing? And then all of a sudden you have a test and it's over. That's what campaigning is like, except everyone has an opinion. So it's pretty fun.
Well, you're a husband, you're a father, you're a mixed martial arts practitioner, you're a music agent, you work for the sheriff's department, you're an attorney, and now you're running for judge. So lazy. I mean, when are you gonna get your act together?
As soon as I can wake up and figure out what I want to do, I'll let you know.
Yeah. So I kind of want to go back and go through your history a little bit and then kind of get to present. So where were you born originally?
I was originally born in Miami, but then my dad got a job in Texas. So at one, we moved to Texas, and I was raised in Houston.
How old were you when that happened?
I was one, and then we came back to Miami. He hit some really, really hard times, so we kind of crawled back to Miami and went back to where I started about 13 years old.
Are you an only child, or do you have siblings?
One of three.
One of three, and what do you have, brothers, sisters?
2 brothers. One's an accountant, and the other one is a cop. The cop was a soldier like I was, an infantry guy, and they both are in Miami.
Okay. Now, Alvarez, what is that? What are you? Cuban? Okay.
Spain by way of Cuban. So all Alvarez's stem from a place called Astoria. So you know the Astoria Club?
Sure, yeah.
That is where the Alvarezes are from. It's a state in Spain.
Okay, and so you were in then Miami through what, high school?
Through high school, and the second I could get out.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, look. So I would consider myself almost a Texan by in that sense. You didn't know when we were growing up. You just thought everything was normal. When I got back to Miami, it was like, hey y'all, and so like the Hispanic kids were like this guy, and the white kids were like this Hispanic. So it was like this.
You're a man without a nation. Yeah.
It was like that. But I've really valued my growing up in Houston because Texans, they're a prideful people.
Right.
They taught about state pride. They taught about law. They taught about what it's like to have your own state country. And we learned that, and that's at 13. We're learning that kind of stuff. So when we came to Miami, it was a different kind of Wild West.
But you've got that Miami energy in you. I think like you've got that frequency that they have down there.
I get tired of Miami though.
Do you really? That's you're not
crazy.
quite there. Well,
it's so
okay.
Crazy.
So high school, did you go to the military after high school, or did you do college then military?
So actually, I was a reporter for the Miami Herald.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. I was having lunch with my wife Dina, who you know today, and actually I met you through her.
That's right.
And I was like, wasn't he a reporter or newscaster or something? She's like, I seem to remember that, but I can't. So
at 16, I became a reporter for the Miami Herald. It was an internship program, which essentially, like at the end of the program, they're like, okay, you can stay for forever. And so I worked there from 16 to the time I went to the Army, and even I had college in between. So anytime I was back in Miami, and I grew up there. That's where like I got my way of thinking, my way of processing, my way of analyzing stuff. And by the way, I'm like a true believer in like the fourth estate. I am an ideologue when it comes to the power of what journalism can do to keep us.
Well, how true
safe.
is that then
Right.
today? I mean,
Right.
Gosh.
Right. Well, we can get.
We'll
to,
get there.
We
You
can
get
get
the-
to,
yeah.
because my experience at the as the chief communications officer for the sheriff's office kind of jaded that. So I still think there's hope. But I'm a journalist, true, and that actually helped me through law school. Journalists, the way they think is
Being able to communicate,
Correct.
in an orderly fashion definitely helps.
And how we lay out arguments for cases and stuff. So then after that, I actually had to ask Knight Ritter, which was the owner of Miami Herald, for permission to go into the Army because I owed them. They gave me a scholarship, which was super sweet. Man, when I was in high school, I made more money than my parents did on an hourly basis.
Doesn't surprise me, but that's awesome.
Because of the Miami Herald. So they said, yeah, you want to serve your country? We're not going to hold you back. And I'm like, do I owe you money? They're like, absolutely not. So they let me go. I joined the Army right after that. I was a second lieutenant. went infantry, became a paratrooper, deployed to Korea, came back, and then taught. I was part of the airborne school, and I was a demonstrator. I was skydiving. You've seen the Golden Knights and the Silver Wing. We were called the Silver Wing, so we would jump into shows, and I had zero business being on that team.
Well, I have a number of. Do you know Armando Edmondson? I think he was in the military, and he actually messed himself up pretty bad jumping out of planes. And I've got a good number of friends who that was the end of their military career jumping out of planes.
If you jump the military's way, which is static line,
yeah.
It's like a controlled crash when you land.
Yeah.
It's a cargo chute that's dropping at 18 miles an hour. You hope to land softly, and that's hoping against hope.
Yeah, crazy. So how long were you in?
I was in for a total of 6 years between my active service and my guard, and I got out as a captain.
How long were you in Korea?
A year, and I kept trying to extend, but they wouldn't.
Were you ever on the line there?
On the DMT. We were the quick reaction force.
You don't know Terry Payne, do you? He's a firefighter, but he was in Korea for a long time. It would have been about the same period of time. Oh, he told me stories about looking over and seeing the people on the other side.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They used to mess with each other.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
So they look at you, and I remember when we were visiting. You've seen where lately, the president has been visiting with.
Oh, sure.
Those same little houses. They would look through binoculars and they would yell at you. They'd be like, Alvarez!
Oh, really? They knew names?
Because it was
on the badge. Oh, wow.
When you were a rookie, you would just, and then all of a sudden you'd start going there covering your name tag because they would then start to research you. And they
Oh, my
they
God.
were very
That's scary.
intelligent. Yeah,
That's
very
scary. All right. So after the military, what was next?
After the military, I was going straight to the FBI. I got into the FBI.
That was my. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got in, and then I was married at the time, and my wife at the time kind of gave me a choice, family or to be a cop. And listen, I'm a Cuban. My family's the most important thing, and I didn't have kids yet, but I was a dad first, and I said I really want to be a dad, and I got married, so let's stick to this commitment. And so I did. Whether that was the right decision or not, because eventually we ended up splitting up. But I have a child.
Yeah, beautiful.
My son his name is Tony. We call him T-Bird.
How old is he?
He turns 15 tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Driver's permit or
yeah, he's studying
restricted.
He's restricted,
yeah.
And I'm excited about it. But it's just weird to see a 15-year-old man.
Yeah.
That I made. It was
really
weird, so.
Yeah. Well, you look good for your age.
Thank you.
FBI. So. That was why I went to law school, and actually right before I went to law school, I sat for the U.S. Marshals exam at USF.
Really?
And it was 40 people that sat for it, and I didn't know this at the time, but if you had military, you got a stipend on your points on your test.
Really?
So I crushed the test, but I was like the only person who had no military.
And so they got the
so
points?
Everybody was ahead, and I was like, well, it probably turned out fine. I probably would have been drummed out of there in about 5 seconds.
We all find our path, though.
Yeah.
You would have done very well.
Well, but the thing with the FBI at the time was, and you probably got the same line, was you either got to be an accountant or you got to be a lawyer. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be an accountant. So law school. And then I met Dina, and I knew with FBI that you got to move around constantly.
Every 3 years,
yeah. So,
bro, so in when I applied, there was 4 tracks, right? Lawyer, accountant, general, and then one was like language. And so I am a fluent Spanish speaker. In fact, when I had my law firm, I would say like 60% of my clients were all Spanish
especially
speakers.
where it was located.
Right,
yeah.
in West Tampa. So I applied through the language part, and so I had these 2 Venezuelans give me a language test. Now, Venezuelans speak beautiful Spanish, and I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
And they rated me at the time, was a 2nd grader.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's
You sound like a Texan.
yeah, exactly. So I ended up getting in under like the general. So it was me versus 70,000 people for that class.
Oh my God.
I felt so guilty. Because I got the letter report next Wednesday. Then I went to my recruiter and it was a female, and I brought her flowers. And she's looking at me like, there's no amount of flowers, brother, that's going to make me like face my boss. And I was like, God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But, life has a way.
So you didn't do FBI. So then what?
So while I was waiting for the FBI, we got hit. I tried to go back into the Army. This was 2001. I got back. I tried to go back in the Army. The Army wasn't accepting anybody.
Really?
Yeah. Well, we had just gotten hit. So
Yeah.
they're like, we don't even know how to.
They didn't know what they were doing
prosecute
yet. Yeah.
And then you remember, like, the first war was like 100 hours. So I was sitting like, well, let me just stick to the FBI because this will be over.
It'll be done in a minute. Yeah.
who would have thought that my little cousin, who was like 8 years old,
Is now
that
in.
I would be sending him off to his second deployment, right? So, I mean, that's insane. But so I stayed as a pharmaceutical rep while I was waiting. I did that super successfully for 6 years.
You did a pharmaceutical.
Yep,
rep.
I was just,
It doesn't surprise me that you would crush that position.
He was super. You know what we did? My partner was from the Ranger Battalion, so we were both infantry guys. We took off our BDUs and we put on suits and we went to work. So we would wake up at 7. We'd go see tons of clients. We made that company a really, really good living, and we made a good living. And then our boss goes, "Hey, y'all need to slow down."
You're making everybody look bad.
Well, and I said, "Well, we don't slow down."
Yeah,
sir."
there's
And
one speed. Yeah.
He said, "Well, you're making me look bad."
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were all leaders, so if you're gonna make your leader look bad, we would never do that, because he's like, "It looks like I don't know how to lead my other people." So we got it. So we found our balance. But that's how I got to Tampa. So I got promoted early, like within 18 months, to a specialty position. I was only supposed to be in Tampa.
How old were you at this time?
27 to 20.
God, how much life you lived just by 26, 27.
You got to burn it.
Yeah.
He's only got one life to live.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so you came up here doing the sales. How is it that law came to pass?
Okay, so now that my wife, and by the way, so if she ever listens to this, her name is Kristen. She's phenomenal. She was.
Is this the one you separated from, or the current one?
No, she's the one separated from. She's the mother of my child. We co-parent like crazy. So I don't want to imply that like there's any negative
No.
here. She's phenomenal. In fact, she was my treasurer for my campaign.
Oh, really?
That should
Oh, wow.
show you something. So, but when she got here, she was like, "Okay, I'm done moving." And I was like, "Well, we were only supposed to be here for like 3 months because I'm like in the 3 years. So I'm in the management program. I'm gonna get out of here." Well, she's like, "Well, I ain't leaving." And I told you, I'm a dad and a family man first. And I was like, "Well, I guess this is my life challenge. What can I do?" So I looked at law school, med school, Cairo, and I'm a law guy. I love the law. I love talking the theory of law. I love that. I applied there and I got in. It was the first people that responded back to me, so I went. And I went to Stetson.
That's awesome. So you went to Stetson, and that was what year?
2004.
Okay. So 2004, then you graduated 2007?
Yep.
Okay.
In December 2007.
And when you came out, did you go right out on your own, or did you go work for somebody else?
So remember, 2008, which is essentially what it was. So it was December 2007. We're facing what was told was the worst economy of all time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll just wait it out one more year. So I went and got my LLM in estate planning.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I went and got my LLM in estate planning and tax from UM. I tried to get to the Harvard one, so this one was tied with Harvard. Harvard only accepts you if you want to go to be a professor. I was like, I don't want to be a professor. I do want to be a professor.
You'd be an amazing professor, but yeah.
Actually,
Well, sure,
We'll
at the
talk about
academy,
that.
yeah.
So I went and got my LLM, and that was an absolute kick in the teeth. That is what I thought law school would be. It was the grind of all grinds. There was no mercy. They're like, "Oh no, you already got your law degree," and now it's the big boys time.
Yeah.
I made it. It was a challenge. I can't believe I did all that math because it was a part of partially taxed. And I came out, and the economy was even worse.
Worse, yeah.
It was even worse. So I had found a job as an in-house counsel for a little bit. I was not satisfied. I wanted to practice law. I wanted to go to the courtroom, and that's when I met up with another attorney. He said, "Come in." I was going to do their litigation stuff, and we did for a while. He hated litigation. I had studied all business law.
Right.
I didn't want to go to court at all.
Right.
In fact, most of my caseload throughout the course of my legal career is almost all transactional, except for bankruptcy. I did personal injury.
I thought personal injury was your primary area.
It became a lot, but then you and I both have practiced personal injury. You couldn't go to a courtroom if it saved your life half the time.
Right. Yeah.
It did go that way.
If something's going to trial on personal injury,
Yeah.
there's a big problem on one side or the other.
It's
Yeah.
a mega case.
Yeah.
And that's what's frustrating to try to explain to other people about, like, when you have caseloads and going to courts and having trials, because public defenders today have a lot of trials. If you're in family law, you're gonna have a lot of trials, and if you're in criminal, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're not in that world,
Yeah.
that courthouse might as well be closed just to hearings for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it's
we got
true.
Plenty of those.
Yeah.
So I opened my own law firm faster than probably we should have. It's just the reality. I had family to feed, and we were hungry.
Right.
There was no people. I remember in 2008-9, all like the super studs in my law class were getting their offers rescinded. Do you remember that? Like there was a time where
I remember a lot of people were cycling out of their first jobs with big firms. You know, they crushed it. They went in, did 2 years, and then I graduated in 2002. I was at the state till 2005, but all the top tier people in the class, they were like leaving the
right.
the top tier firms and like
That's the worst time to leave.
yeah, yeah.
So I had done a bankruptcy internship in law school, and so I had the knowledge. I had won some bankruptcy award. I had the knowledge, and that is what kept the lights on. That and then teaching at the University of Tampa.
So you never actually ended up doing what your LLM was
I
for?
did.
Oh, you did?
I did, but
Okay.
but that's a slow burn. We're
Yeah.
talking about this. Like my competition at the time. Here, I'm a rookie.
Right.
My competition at the time is out there, and they're cutting jobs.
Yeah.
At these big firms, and so they're hungry. They're going out
Saturating
and
the
getting-
environment. Yeah, yeah. That
So-
makes sense.
But I did a lot of estate planning, a lot of trusts, and that was a lot of fun. But when you're on your own, you know this. When you're on your own, you got to figure out what's the best bang for your buck half the time, so that you can keep the lights on, because you have employees, you have your overhead, you have your bills. So kind of finding that balance. I did a lot of personal injury, a lot of business law and consulting. But I got to be honest, when I first started, if it wasn't for the University of Tampa and my teaching gigs there, I wouldn't have been able to make it.
Yeah.
So I taught 2 sections of business law
Wow.
a semester.
That's
for
awesome.
9 years.
Now, you also did something towards the end of your time with your private practice that was near and dear to my heart,
Yeah.
and that was the music management.
That's right.
How did you decide to get into that?
Anyone that's in music management is a wannabe singer.
Yeah,
Or a
yeah,
wannabe performer.
yeah.
I have zero talent to play any music, and I can't sing, even though in the shower, the shower might tell you otherwise. So I would go out. It was it was a passion. I had a music type. I like alt rock.
Yeah.
And when the bands I knew came to town, I would just give them my card and I'd say, "Let me help you." One guy bit a guy named Steve Kopax from a band called Go Radio.
Uh huh.
They at the time when I met them, they were literally living off $10 each a day.
Uh-huh.
Trying to get to their next gig. He had a little problem. We fixed it. I became their attorney forever, and then just
Built it from there.
Hey, this is my guy. This is my guy.
Because you had some bands, like some decent bands that I heard of. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a Day to Remember.
Yeah,
I represent them individually, not as a band. They're a great group of guys, and they're ginormous now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a band called Wage War.
Okay.
Signed to a Fearless Records contract, and I'm shocked by how big they are. It's really, really good, but it was awesome. Okay, you're a music lover.
Sure.
All right. I almost wish I had never gone into that law practice, because once you go behind the curtain, it changes.
Kind of ruins it for you.
It really, it's such a business, and it gets a little bit nasty back there, where it took me like 2 or 3 years to like
kind of shake it off. Yeah.
And now I'm back into music again. I almost didn't listen to music for like 2 or 3 years. No joke. And that's like a fundamental part of my life.
So when you kind of wrapped it up at the firm and went to the sheriff's department, what year was that?
So that was 2.5 years ago.
Was there an in between? Am I missing a part?
No,
Okay.
So I had so during my law firm, I was in the community service. Like when I left the Army, my desire to serve didn't end. Like there was a hollow hole, and I thought it was unique. Well, I don't say I was depressed, but I was like a sad person when I left the Army, because I had just lost my team. I don't remember what I made for a living, Josh, when I was in the Army. Like I knew that there was money. I got my mortgage paid. I got to jump out of planes, and I got to serve, and I was excited because I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Right.
And then just like that, well, I was going to go to the FBI, but then just like that, it's over. Life changes. So I've been chasing that feeling of the service of giving to others. So I drowned myself in thinking, okay, I'll make a lot of money and I'll give money. That didn't work. It didn't fill it.
Right.
And then I said, okay, I'm going to be a super volunteer. And I did. I joined every board possible, almost at one point to the point where I was like making less money because I was
spending so much time.
I had to make
charitable stuff.
That was tough. So I was the president of the Sheriff's Hispanic Advisory Board for 5 years. I was on their shooting review board. So every time a deputy ever discharged their weapon, I was a civilian that was on that board. So that's where I met then Captain Chronister, and we developed a professional relationship. And I told him, hey, I'm going to run for judge. He goes, well, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you, even back then. And then he gets appointed sheriff. And then he says, hey, before I help you, can I ask you a question?
Can you help me?
And no, can I ask you a question? He goes, can you come help me?
Yeah.
I'd like to have you come in and, he knew that I had some businesses. I ran them on social media. He knew that we knew how to develop practices and that I was a business attorney. that institution's 170 something years old, so you got to kind of bring in a change agent.
Right.
So for a long time, I was the only person that he'd hired. And I said, all right, I'm going to put my dream here on pause. I'm going to put my dream here on pause. I'm going to come help you. We're going to get you established. We're going to shake it up, figure out what's up. And so I paused running for judge to do the work
Right.
for him, and now I'm back.
Wow. But you're still working in that capacity, aren't you?
So
Yeah.
I was the chief comms guy, which, brother, in the last 2.5 years, I have done more, seen more, had
Oh, I
my eyes
bet.
open more to what the reality of our life is, and the law, and what the criminal justice system is. I'm flooded. I couldn't even, if I wrote a book about it, you would be like, this guy's lying.
Yeah,
That never
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get more involved.
Yeah.
I wanted to do more. So I was like, I'm gonna go. I guess I'll go be a cop. I wanted to be in the FBI. I'm gonna go be a cop.
Yeah.
And really, the sheriff.
Were you actually sworn in as an officer?
No, I
Okay.
was like, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
I said, you know what? I'll just go to the academy and I'll go become a cop and I'll just serve that way. And it's not only is it respectable, what these people do is unbelievable, to be honest with you.
You know what's funny about you, if I can cut you off real
No,
quick,
please.
is you have such a diverse breadth of areas that you've worked in, and I say this not to blow smoke up your skirt, but I could see you being excellent in any one of them. I could see you being excellent as a journalist. I could see you excellent as selling pharmaceuticals, as a cop, as FBI, as a music manager. You have this energy that's kind of singular. I say it's singular, but I'm friends with Bryant Camerino, and we were talking before the show about Eddie Reyes and David Gonzalez, and you've got that club that you guys are kind of, and all of you guys just have more energy than I know what to do with. But again, with you, you're talking about all these things. It's like I could see that. I could see that. I could see
passion.
that. It really is.
I can't.
That's why I think you'll do a great job as a judge. Yeah.
I think and that's a passion,
Right?
Because I see it, and I've been in front of judges, which I was like, that wasn't awesome, and I've been in front of judges who literally inspired me, and I'm like, that guy or that gal can really make a difference. I think judges today are underwhelming with what they can do. I think they've been reined in to a point where like 20, 30 years ago, judges used to be part of the community. You
Right.
see them out and about, and what did Judge Johnson say? He's a respected individual, and I'm not saying that they're not respected. What I'm saying is I feel like they're collared more because there's a lot of rules and stuff like that.
Well, I talked to Greg Green yesterday, who's
Great
also
guy.
running, and he
Great
was
guy.
telling me that one of the biggest complaints from the bench is that they feel isolated because they, both by the nature of their work and then also by the appearance of impropriety or the ethics, like you can't be on social media with all these people who are your
Correct.
friends or attorneys.
Correct.
You can't go out and hang out kind of in the same way that you might have before, but then also, they're used to being in the world working with another attorney or
Right.
being in a law firm, but now they're in their office with their JA and they're signing orders, and that's it. They're kind of walled off.
What people in the community say? They're like, two things. Number one, we love your energy, but we're scared that when you win, you'll change.
Yeah.
And number two, we'll never see you again. So
Yeah.
how do we believe you?
Right.
And I don't blame any judge, but that's literally on the forefront of my mind, that when I win, I want to stay
Change
in the
that
community
perception.
in the most ethical way I can.
Right.
Clearly, what they face is real. So these people might be in front of you, so you don't want the perception. But I don't think that limits your ability to go talk to some kids and try to go inspire them to do more than
Right.
their situation and circumstance determines.
Right.
So
Anyway, so we're with
Yeah.
Chad Chronister. You're working for the Sheriff's Department. How is it that you make the decision to make the leap into running for judge?
we had gotten to a point where it was time. We're at 2.5 years. We stood up a communications department that did not exist before that. Before that, it was a corporal, a secretary, and essentially like a communications assistant with a camera guy.
Yeah.
And so essentially now we've created a public relations firm for the sheriff's office and a communications machine to tell the community they're spending all this money. Where's your money going?
Yeah.
And are you safe? Is the message of are you safe? Because they are, but you'd think like with social media, we just pay attention 2 seconds and we're gone. You know what I mean? So you got to keep reminding people that there's good men and women out there holding the line for them and doing the right thing. The important part too is when they don't do the right thing, the sheriff is committed to also saying that, which I think is a big trust thing, and that was really refreshing.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean they're definitely under the watchful eye of both media and the
Right.
public
Of
more
course.
now than ever. I when I bought this building, I moved in 2017, and that's when the serial shooter
Oh
was
yeah.
around here. And I remember I was like, what did I just do? Because like clients wouldn't come to my office, and then I started getting on all these local Facebook groups like Seminole Heights Community, Tampa
Right.
Heights Community, all this other stuff. And I don't know if you've ever gone on those pages, but every night is what's this helicopter doing over our head, or has anybody seen my bike, or has
Yep.
anybody seen my plant, or and I love this community, but they want to know what's going
Yeah,
on,
they're
and
very active.
so there's definitely a
I used
need
to
for
live
what.
down the street.
Yeah,
So I lived in Riverside Heights
I've been.
for
You
four.
lived on the river at
That's
one
right.
point, yeah.
Well, one block off the river.
Okay.
Yeah. Great community. The only reason we moved out is because we had a fourth child, and like that little
Didn't have
1200
space, yeah.
it wasn't gonna work.
Right, right,
Wasn't gonna
right.
work.
So you made the decision to jump in. Did you talk with any judges? Did you figure out what seat you wanted to run for? Did you?
That was difficult because so there's seven.
Whose seat are you running for? Is it a new seat or is it someone
No,
retiring?
it's group 30.
Okay.
But it's group 30. She's not running again.
Is it Martha Cook?
Yes, that's
Okay,
it. That's
yeah.
exactly what it is. Thank you. There's so many open seats right now and there's so many great candidates. Listen,
You have three in yours?
I have three in mine.
It's you, Dolgen, and a third person.
Helene Daniel.
Helene Daniel.
Great woman.
I know
She's-
Gary. I don't know
she's a
Helene.
great woman. So there's seven. It's super difficult to choose which one to go for because there's so many people that I'm friends with that we've made great professional relationships and some people I didn't want to go against.
Yeah.
So it was tough and there was
When did you announce?
October. October
Okay.
was our kickoff.
Were you the first in, the last in?
I was the last.
Okay.
I was the last in. Look, somewhere along the lines, they told judicial candidates, "Why don't you start in the summer?" That's a presidential thing.
Yeah.
You know the history and the tradition. If you talk to Salsinas, the tradition in our county was you wait till essentially January, like now, January, February, March. You announce, Monique Scott just announced.
Yeah.
I think that's super smart.
Yeah.
And you have a 6-month run, and you're in and you're out.
Well, some of them wait till a couple hours before the deadline.
Yeah, well,
and
that's
jump.
true.
Yeah.
Well, that's more playing the
Yeah.
female versus male
Yeah.
strategy, which is effective.
Yeah.
But it might be mitigated this year because of we have 7. Listen, by the time you get to judge, like we might have 200,000 people vote for the president.
Uh-huh.
By the time, we'll be lucky we got 50,000 people voting for us at that time. So
Yeah,
it's-
yeah. So, how has it been? Has it been what you expected? Have you been surprised by the process?
It is exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Hey, you have more than one child though. You have
I have
3 or 4.
children.
4.
I
Okay.
have 4 children.
What are their ages?
I have a 15-year-old that turns 15
Yeah.
tomorrow. 8, 6, and 4.
Wow, God.
And number 4, her nickname is ISIS.
Oh yeah.
Because she is the family terrorist.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
yeah.
that right now.
It's
But
funny.
I love her so much.
My daughter Stella is always on the iPad, and my wife's like, "What's she watching?" I always say, "I think it's ISIS recruitment videos." I don't know, but anyway. So yeah, I mean, so you're dividing your time right now between your work with the sheriff,
Right.
your campaigning, being a father, being
Right.
now. Also, another thing near and dear to my heart is I know you. I don't know if you're doing it currently, but training mixed martial arts.
Well, I haven't been, right? And haven't been
It's
for a
kinda
while.
taking a break.
Because it is but we're still in the community. Right?
Yeah.
We're still super supportive. So, like, my team that we
Were you at Gracie or a separate?
No, this is awesome. Our law firm was Anthony Gonzalez
Uh-huh.
was my space partner
Yeah.
that we did up there, and then below.
Oh, you're at his place.
He owned the gym.
Yeah.
So Def War was the name of the team.
Yeah.
In fact, you know Alon Cruz?
Yes.
The guy that just did around
Yeah.
house. He was from that gym. He's Danny Mendoza's, De Hurtado's guy. To watch that kid go from
Oh, sure.
I mean,
0 to 60. Yeah.
You want to talk about discipline, brother? You want to talk about it? So it doesn't matter. Those men and women, because there's women there, grind every single day. So everyone ever saw was the knee to the face that got him
Yeah,
the contract,
yeah.
right? They're like, oh, that's awesome. But that dude,
You know what it
before
took for that knee? Yeah.
right, was working, and then right after that, went right back to work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of discipline that inspired. You want to talk about inspired? That inspires me. So that's what I get from MMA.
Right. So, and then also you do, I don't know if this is with the sheriff or separate, but firearms training, right?
We've stopped doing that
Okay.
for a while. There's just too many irons in the fire. But we had done that as part of our collective.
So have you been doing a lot of speaking engagements as part of your election?
Speaking, so motivational speaking has been always part of the mix. If I had to drop everything else, that's the thing I wouldn't drop. Is there's something about connecting with people, and we get to do that. And so, we'll get. It depends on how they ask me. If they ask me to come out as a judge, clearly that what we say is different. But I would love for you to ask me to come out to be a leadership or motivational speaker.
Right.
I get fired up about that.
That's awesome. So I'm going to kind of grill you a little
Yeah,
bit, not
go
too
for it.
bad, but
No,
talk
it's
to
fine.
you about kind of, you're the third now
Yep.
candidate that I've talked to, and I'm doing my best to kind of get you all the same questions.
balanced.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen, and the people who listen to this are going to get tired of me talking about this, so I'm not going to belabor it too long, but is knowing what you're getting into.
Right.
There's at least a handful of judges that I could think of. I won't say names, but I watched them. They campaigned. They ran. Some of them ran multiple times, and then when they got on the bench, they were just miserable.
Right.
And so, part of it is knowing what you're getting into. And, for you, I have a hard time thinking that your energy level is ever going to dip.
Change, right?
But for me, I've asked the candidates what they think and other people. But for me, the most important trait for someone up there is temperament.
Right. I agree with that.
Because, with the type of law that you're practicing for the circuit court bench, I asked Greg to go through it yesterday, but you're either going to be doing family law,
Right.
circuit criminal, dependency, civil. That's pretty much the big four, right? Yeah. Am I missing any?
Nope.
Okay. So civil. I don't. That's like you mentioned earlier. That's where I'm in trial the least.
Right.
So, and that one, it's money. People have been injured oftentimes, or it's business transactions, stuff like that. But with criminal and family law, especially, it's your life, your liberty, your money, your children. I mean, you're dealing with high stakes, and it's a pretty tough atmosphere to be in. So compounding that with the wrong temperament, it just makes it unbearable. So I was interested to know kind of your position on that.
So the way I understand it from the chief judge, he's going to put you in where he needs you, like, right? And the greatest need is in the child dependency,
Right.
and family. I would love to go into family law,
Right.
and be a family law judge. I know that most people are like, I don't want family. I want family. I believe, and again, I have a passion for, that's the part of law where temperament matters the most. You have to have an understanding the most. And think about how raw, these are people's lives. No one gets married to get divorced. No one does that, right?
For sure.
And having been divorced and having gone through that, Chris Sabella, Judge Sabella was my guy, and the way he treated me, I will never forget it. He was an absolute rock star, honorable man, and I said, if I'm ever here, I want to be like that guy.
Right.
And I think his ability, a judge's ability to touch and influence people who are going through the worst part of their times, he or she's going to be their guide. Now, if they want to just be there and just say, okay, all right, sign the order, whatever, but you have a chance to influence directly our society. And listen, we always are like, hey, I'm not judging. Well, you are the judge. That's what you're there to do. Leave a mark. And I think that the greatest chance to do that as a rookie judge is right there. There's kids involved. There's dads and moms that have to step up and do their jobs.
Right.
And that's a judge's job. Let's balance this out. Make sure the child is protected. Make sure everyone is safe and fairly treated. And let's get moving on with our lives. We can do that in a respectful manner. And I actually want to go there. I actually want to cut my teeth there.
Well, and I heard this too. Again, I don't mean to keep talking about Greg, but
please.
I just talked to Greg yesterday, so it's fresh on my mind. But he brought up another interesting point, in that it's that they like to put new judges in a area where it's bench trials instead of jury trials to begin with, because
That's absolutely
adding a jury into the mix is a whole other level. So to the extent that they can kind of, do it with the attorneys and the parties in the room
Right.
without a jury, and then work from there.
So here's what you hear people all the time. Oh, I have a ton of experience. Like if you're good in sales, that doesn't make you a great manager of salespeople.
Right.
Right. It doesn't. Those are two totally different subset. So to be a judge, right, you got to go learn. No one's ever been a judge till they're a judge, right?
Right.
So you got to go cut your teeth there. And this chief judge is pretty adamant, as I understand it, that he wants you to learn the
Is
system.
it Tibbles?
The chief judge Figueroa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he wants you to learn the system before he's going to, because that, you want to talk about appeals, you want to talk about errors, like you want to talk about objections in a jury trial. Everything's got to be
Different,
right.
yeah.
So everything's different. So I don't mind. Keep me down there in family law. I'll be happy.
Well, so another phenomenon that I've witnessed with new judges is a lot of them come in and they want to put their stamp on it. They're the new judge in town, the
Right.
new sheriff in town. I'm going to take this caseload and make it start moving, and I'm going to come up with all these new things that we're going to do. And 6 months later, they're back to the way that all the other judges are doing
I
it.
can see that.
So, sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. I've seen some judges where, like, this is the second pretrial. Everything at the second pretrial gets set for trial,
Right.
or everything at the second case management gets
Right.
for trial. And all of a sudden, they have these trial dockets that you can't get hearing time for
Right.
like 3 years.
Right.
So that I'm like, kind of. There's a way that it works and a way that it doesn't. So you might want to. But then, like Judge Leffler, who is in family law now, he's done some interesting things and about people are going to have to meet certain discovery deadlines before he's like, I don't want any ambushing. I think that's a word he used. Ambush.
Yeah, it's a good term.
Yeah, because with family law, trials not so much, but sometimes the temp relief hearings or the hearings in between, you have people popping in on 5-minute unified motion calendars, and they have trial binders like this, and they haven't given them to the other side, and they're
Surprise.
Yeah. So it's definitely interesting. So anyway,
Well, to that extent, I think that the way I operate, you go in, and I got to learn the system before I apply any changes to the system. So I need to be a student. Clearly, the judge is the leader of that court. That's not what I'm saying. I'm a decisive person, but I don't imagine going in, hey, let's change everything right now because my name's Danny Alvarez. I'm the judge.
right.
My name's Danny Alvarez, the judge. I don't even know what I don't know. I've never been a judge, right?
Well, so I've seen judges do this, and this might be something if you hadn't thought of it, but is to kind of have a luncheon, like a brow bag lunch in your courtroom, and have the attorneys that are in there a lot sit down and, what are you guys seeing as issues? What do you like? What do you not like? This sort of thing. And I think that that's invaluable.
genius.
Yeah.
That's
And
genius.
so I've seen, and this goes back to the temperament. Judge Hinson, when he came in, he admitted, I'm not the sharpest in family law, but he had the personality
Right.
that, Judge Nazarian, Judge Fuson, some of these other people, who didn't have the family law background, but they came in and they're willing to admit that and kind of. So I think that's very important with the family law.
Absolutely.
So aside from law, you kind of touched on it as far as your charitable work. What are you involved in right now? I mean, are you doing anything with Metropolitan Ministries, Friends of Joshua House? You doing anything like that?
No, when I went to the sheriff's office, because essentially I work 24/7, I stopped doing a ton.
Sure.
Because literally my service, in my view, was to the citizens of Hillsborough County. But I've been ultra involved in children's board. Like I said, the children were a huge passion to me.
You did Are You Safe at one point too, didn't you?
Well, I supported.
Well,
it.
this gets back. I don't want to forget this
No,
story.
no.
So the first time I remember meeting you
Here we go.
was a golf tournament for Are You Safe?
Yes.
And I swear to God, when you pulled up, there was like mariachis around you and people firing up. Like everybody was just hot and tired. And then you pulled up in a golf cart, and all of a sudden it was like a party. And you got out and you were salsa dancing and everything else. And I was like, who is this guy? And Dina's like, oh, that's Danny. And then you had like an open house at your office shortly thereafter, and I got to meet you. But I was just like, God, this guy just
Who is this? Yeah.
changes the
I
atmosphere
love that.
immediately. So anyway, before we wrap up,
Yes.
do you have anything? Do you have kind of a mission statement? Do you have anything about yourself, why you think you're uniquely qualified or are the right fit for this position, and what you think you'll bring to the position?
Thank you for asking. I think that what makes someone fit for judge is experience and temperament. You said the word, and I was like, man, it's like we had coordinated it. If you don't have experience to understand that when people come in front of you, that life gets in the way and that life happens, just because we went to law school doesn't make us qualified to be a judge. You've got to be a really good human. You've got to be someone that's been there and done that. You've got to be someone that remembers what it's like to suffer and, come from a place where it wasn't always easy. Notice I'm saying we, when we become lawyers, we start to elevate our status in life, and we kind of forget that the regular person, right? This law is not normal to the regular person. You said 15 motion hearings in one sentence. People hearing this might be like, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
But when someone gets sued, it's a really big deal.
Right.
The empathy that you have to have for that person, even if you completely disagree, the respect you have to have for the attorney that prepared this case, all of these things are ultra important. And that, my friend, is what I believe makes me the most qualified, and is why I want to be here. I want to serve. I love the law. I come from a country, my parents come from a country that the rule of law collapsed.
Right.
I exist because of that, right?
Right.
So my dedication, whether it was serving our country or serving our county, my dedication is to the preservation of our system, which I am a firm believer. It's not the best system. It's not the perfect system, but man,
It's the best one we got.
Best one we got. And you might be like, this guy, you know, he's off in la la land. But then call me, I'm in la la land because I love it, right?
Well, you said, you know, we talked about temperament, but you talked about experience. And I've seen people with not as much experience do well, but I do think experience is important. And in all three of the interviews that I've done with the nominees, we've talked about that. You know, Greg talked about yesterday, he said, I wanted to wait till I had 20 years in. So I made the decision at 20 years. So he had that experience. But I think there's depth of experience and breadth of experience. And like with Leanne, she's barred in like 4 or 5 different states. She's done like a ton of murder trials. Right. She's on the, what's it called? The committee for like people on death row to like get a turn. What's it called?
Wow.
I'm drawing a blank. Oh my God. I mean, she's like experienced to be on the Supreme Court of the United States now.
Let's do a direct
but
point.
with you, I mean, you have the depth, but what you really bring, as far as what I see, is the breadth. I mean, you've worn so many different hats that ability to empathize with people in different positions. I can definitely see that.
We all start off as attorneys, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Our ticket was a law degree in 5 years. That's what gets you in here. Look
Right.
at Ashley Moody. Look at what she's done. I mean, she, as a judge, she was super effective, and then as a state attorney, she's doing what she's got to do. And then you've got. I remember I talked to Judge Espinoza, right? And I when I first started was going to go run, and I just had him, and I said, Your Honor, you know, what do you think about a trial experience? Because at that time I was like, hey, we're super worried. How many trials is it that you need to have to go in here? And he goes, trials. He goes, I'm sitting on a bench with people that didn't even know where the courtroom was before they got here. And he goes, they're phenomenal judges.
Yeah.
In my day, he said, there's not a chance that you would have even put your name in for judge had you didn't have like 100 trials or whatever. Like a Bryant Camerino.
Sure, yeah. I saw that a lot in Pinellas County. There's a lot of with the judicial appointments.
Right.
It seemed like more with appointments than people who ran.
Right.
Were getting in and, you know, what's this person's background? Like they were a, you know, such and such. They never stepped foot in a courtroom. And,
but you remember, like before the bar said, "Hey, we need to have some sort of qualification minimum to become a judge." Anyone could become a judge.
Right.
Anyone did become a judge, and then they had to learn the law the hard way. So.
But that gets back to temperament. You know, you can have a good temperament, maybe not the experience, and that gets you there. So if people want to find you, do you have a website?
Absolutely.
Do you have a social media page?
Absolutely. We're very, very active. electdannyalvarez.com or on Facebook, it's Danny Alvarez for Judge, or my individual account, which also cross-posts, is at Danny Alvarez SR, which is senior because, you know, my son's name is Junior.
That's right. So I anticipate this will be up sometime next week. So are there events coming up 2 weeks, 3 weeks out where people can come and see you?
Yeah, check. Literally, for the latest and greatest, I think in this next like 4-week period, we have like 12 events coming up.
Wow.
So just check
I'm
on
tired
that.
just thinking about it.
I'm tired just talking about it.
Yeah. What was it? Oh, the last thing real quick, just because you're on my podcast. Tell me about your podcast.
It's called What Not to Do with Danny and Gino. Really, it's a motivational.
Who's Gino?
Gino is he is a PhD student who PhD. He's a doctor in neuroanthropology.
Oh wow.
And legit, I feel dumb just sitting next to him. So we call it when JD meets PhD.
Yeah.
He gets super scientific. I get real world on the experience. And really, we're just trying to empower people to activate with the strengths that they already have inside them and just go conquer.
And do you have guests on, or?
We haven't had one guest yet.
So it's just been topics and you guys talking.
Topics and we talk, and it's been super. We're 30 plus in right now, but we want to start integrating guests.
Where can people find you?
They're going to find that on Facebook as well, and it's on YouTube.
Okay.
What Not to Do with Danny and Gino.
Very cool. Danny, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure talking with you.
It was my pleasure.
Take it easy.
All right, bye-bye.